Hello, magical humans. I'm Sorana Pascariu, and this is a new episode of the podcast Mindset for Mars. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so below. And today I am going to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, like literally ever. And that is the two worlds. So there's two worlds that we can live in. There's a world that is the linear world. Linear, predictable, play by the rules, Newtonian, mechanistic world that we've basically been brought up in and educated in. And that's the world of hustling. That's the world of averages and probabilities and pretty much everything that our logical mind and society and common sense essentially tell us that we can do and achieve and how to behave in this world. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's worked. It works. That's how most of our parents and most of the societies that we live in have been behaving for thousands of years, and that's totally fine. That's a perfectly functional world. But there is another one. There's another world that is just a choice away in terms of how we think, and that is the quantum world. I know quantum is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and it can become a little demonetized. But quantum essentially describes a world that behaves according to the rules of quantum mechanics, which is, it's not linear, it's not predictable, it's definitely not Newtonian. There's just hard matter, objects that are colliding with each other in a predefined space. This is not how this world works, and there's a lot of scientists that are talking about it. It started with Max Planck, who basically is one of the fathers of quantum physics. And what this world is about is that actually beyond the Newtonian predictable physics, there is another layer of how the world behaves, how the universe behaves, the laws of the universe that are virtually incomprehensible to the human mind. I mean, if you actually think you understand it, you probably don't. Quantum physicists themselves talk about how it's beyond their comprehension in a way. But essentially what it boils down to is that it is a world of infinite possibilities, where the power of your consciousness is what affects the result. And this world is where people like Joe Dispenza, you've heard me talk a lot about his work and his meditations. That's essentially the space in which he plays. His meditations are a way to access this quantum world. And this, for me, that was my invitation. It was essentially my first contact with living in this world of infinite possibilities, because when I first, 3.5 years ago, I've talked about this many times in my podcast and in all of my materials. I was severely depressed and I had PTSD, and I accessed Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural. I downloaded his meditation, and after really committing to it for 3 weeks, I was completely healed. And to me, that was an event that was beyond probabilities, that was beyond what is possible. It was certainly beyond what I had been told by at least 7 different doctors who were telling me how this mental illness behaves, and that it was just, it was absolutely impossible. And to me, that was the moment when I first asked the question to myself, well, if this was possible, what else is possible? And certainly having a very profound understanding that the world that is had as it had been presented to me by society, by the traditional education that I had received, was perhaps not really how the world actually functioned. And that's where my work really started, of me trying to understand what was really possible. And what I know now is that it was an invitation. What happened to me was an invitation for me to enter this world of the quantum, this world of the infinite possibilities, this world of not playing by the rules. And it's been fascinating, a really amazing journey, because as I've also talked about many times in all my stuff, is that things started to become really magical. I started to manifest really improbable things into my reality. I started having really magical experiences. People would come into my world that I just didn't even know people could be like that. All kinds of experiences, all kinds of emotions that I had never felt before. Infinite joy and infinite bliss, and all kinds of out of the ordinary things started happening when I started playing in this world. And this is a very big topic, because it is, I mean, in a world of infinite possibilities, obviously there's infinite things to talk about. But I want to bring you back to a couple of things that will help you access this world. And the number one thing that will help you access it is, first of all, it's a choice. It's a choice to believe in it. You can be skeptical and start looking for evidence that this is not possible. You can doubt it. And of course, that puts you squarely into the other world, into linear, I have to see evidence before I believe. And that's perfectly fine. But this is something, this playing in this world requires you to access a different human faculty, and that is faith. Being able to believe is a human capacity, a human faculty that helps you connect with something that is not here yet, that it doesn't exist yet in the present reality. That is something that allows us to access the divine, the sacred, the concept of God. It's not something that we necessarily see, and perhaps at first we don't even have any evidence of it, but we can project onto this unseen thing our inner belief, our inner knowing that it does exist. And it creates a bridge. And if you think about it, that's how incredible humans achieve extraordinary results. I keep coming back to Elon Musk because he's one of the most extreme examples I can ever give. He would have to really imagine in his mind that it would be possible for him to create something like SpaceX and to take the space transportation, to take it private, and to do all the things that he does. He did not have evidence that that was possible, but he bridged the gap with faith. He believed in it. He believed that it was possible. Well, it is exactly the same. That's one of the human capacities that is probably one of the most overlooked, but that extraordinary performers know how to access. And I was reading a quote from one of my favorite spiritual leaders of all times, Teal Swan, and she was saying something along the lines of, faith and fear are essentially the same energy. They require the same thing, in the sense that for both of them, you are required to project something that isn't real yet, that doesn't exist, because fear is also about something that hasn't happened. But with faith, it's a projection of the positive, of the magical, of the unlimited possibilities. With fear, it's most of the time the opposite. And which one are you going to choose? And it's always a choice. So coming back to that capacity to believe in the unseen is one of the ways in which you access the quantum world, because your mind, your consciousness is the point of creation. That's where you can access different worlds and you can go through to different paths, is through your conscious mind, which is the captain of the ship. And another one, so this is like the first choice is through your rational mind. And another very important one, and one that is sometimes overlooked in certain leadership programs and when we talk about manifestation, is your body. Your body is the vessel that contains your emotions, your past experiences, that is essentially coded in a certain way. I recently learned this term from a very cool coach, Caroline Britton is her name, really awesome. And basically we're coded in a certain way to be oriented towards a certain outcome, but we can recode our bodies, we can recode our nervous systems in order to make us more aligned to this infinite possibilities, especially emotions of very high vibration like joy, happiness, elation, and things like faith. These have a very high frequency, and emotions are an access point to a certain reality. I mean, a very high emotion will very quickly align you with what's possible, with that realm of infinite possibilities. So a thought of infinite possibilities with a very high frequency emotion together are going to give you access into that world. A thought of this is not possible plus emotion of fear, of despair, of disbelief are going to align you with more of the same outcomes from a linear world. And of course this is a complex topic that I'm going to be addressing again and again on my podcast, because let's answer the question of how the world works in one short podcast. Not gonna happen. But I wanted to make you think about it today, and to think about what you're going to choose, because you do have the power to choose which world you're a player in. And that's what I wanted you to focus on today. And once the choice is made, every single day is going to bring you closer to the world that you want to play. And every single day is going to be a reaffirmation of your decision. And every single day you're going to receive more and more information and more resources in order to play in the world that you chose. It's kind of like the Matrix, but with slightly different rules, because if you get forgot which one it was, the red was the good one. Anyways, the pill that makes you aware of how things really are, actually that world is magical. You don't really sit in a pod with cables coming out of it. It is magical and beautiful and sparkling, and literally anything is possible in it. So which pill are you going to choose? I hope you choose the magical one. All puns intended. And that's the food for thought for today. And I hope you're having a magical, beautiful day. And see you on the next podcast. Take care.